to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaft.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Welcome to episode 497 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, May 15th, 2025, in the evening. Coming to you from Numbergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, SSJ5 Goku, and NY Kiwi. And by our patrons of the week, Vermont Gamer and Kevin Fitzgerald. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder, who wants to go first?
Well, I want to say at the top here, for patrons, we're also trying a new thing where we often chat after the show among ourselves, and we figured that could be some good bonus content for patrons. Relatively short conversations about games or music or Hearthstone or nerd stuff for the most part. Won't necessarily be every single week, but that is, if you're interested in that, that is on our Patreon.
Yeah, because we realized we were sort of just like never finding time to record bonus episodes,
Yeah.
which previously had been supposed to be a monthly thing, and I think even under Hat it was like starting to slip.
It was every once in a while when we remembered that it was something we needed to do, and and we had grand plans, and then trying to get all of our schedules to line up a second time was not happening. So, and we talk about stuff. I mean, we generally talk for a while after the show. Sometimes we were live, sometimes we're not. And so we're like, well, we could just press record again and just have that here. And I mean, this is not a new concept. This is something that's been going on in podcasting for the idea of an after dark has been going on for a long time. So it's not like, it's not anything new, but it's something that we could do and then give you all some extra bonus content. I released them both on the same day. I may not do that just to make sure that people who are like have a feed set up for the raw audio get that and don't have it not download, because I released 2 episodes back to back. So I might do that like a little bit later in the week, so you get that spaced out a little bit. But that is something that when we have something that is not I'm very tired, I'm leaving now, which does also happen sometimes, then we'll release that to you, and you can get to spend a little bit more time with us if you are a patron of any of the paid tiers. So there are free members, I don't believe will get that content, but if you are any of the paid tiers of patron, then you will get access to that content as well. It's just an extra thing that we can offer.
Yeah.
So, Megasa, do you want to start or?
Sure. So I've found my groove more this week. I had started to even before the mini set dropped. I was playing some Menagerie Death Knight, which I think last week I was like, I should do that. Just do some straight up aggro. As always with an aggro deck, sometimes, you go all out and then they just clear all your stuff. And then you have to know when to concede because you're not dead, but you are done. Sometimes you can pull out a win, but the Menagerie Death Knight is more of a like aggro deck. Has some burst with the jug, but you need to have a board, for that to work. So I was having some success with that, but I definitely enjoyed the mini set so far. I started with the Imbue Hunter. We'll definitely talk about that. But this is the King Plush deck that we had discussed a couple weeks ago, and I had put it for a thing I can't wait to play. And Edelweiss was like, no, this is pretty scary. And I think she's right on that. But I was doing really well with it. Then win rate started to dip because people were targeting it more. And I realized that Imbue Druid is really, really good. and I already enjoyed that deck. So I've been playing Imbue Druid, and that is hitting the spot. I think I had just needed a little bit of a break, like from real life stuff. I had gone really hard into the game after the original like balance patch for this expansion, and I think had played so much that I needed a little bit of a break, and now we're back. And the Imbue Druid can do some crazy stuff really early. I had a game where I went Innervate, Trail Mix on 1. I was going first. And then on 2, a Mirdrassil. And I did win that game. I had that happen to me as a mirror, and it was much less fun when they did it.
That's funny how that works that way. Yeah.
But I think there is some skill to the Imbue Druid in sort of knowing how to balance the spells versus hitting the button in the early turns. I think for people who are struggling with the deck, the main pitfall you can fall into, and most of our advice from our Imbue Druid episode like a month ago is still relevant for this, but the main pitfall that I think people can fall into is needing the hero power to be really, really big before they hit the button. But this is not a deck that has a ton of comeback potential. The Chameleon adds more than we had before, and sometimes you can get spells that help you out with that, but mostly you want to be fighting for the board in early turns. It's really a deck that wins with 4/4s rather than 8/8s later, right? Like, it attacks with 4/4s, that's how it wins, more often than it defends with 8/8s, and that's how it wins. Sometimes you do go a bit later, but especially if you're facing like a hunter, you have a very fast clock versus a hunter. It is absolutely winnable, but you have a clock, and so you really need to be going fast. I've also, a lot of the hunters, I've noticed, compared to yesterday, yesterday I felt like my clock was turn 7, which was actually pretty doable with the Imbue Druid. If you don't have a lot of opposition, you can totally kill someone by then. Today, the hunters have realized that they don't have to have the OTK to play the plush as long as they copied it first. So they discount the plush somewhat, not enough to like play 2 of it, but they copy it anyway with the dragon, and then clear my board with the first plush. Do 12 damage, say, to my face. And then I usually can't kill that plush, so the next turn they have 12 more damage with it, plus 12 more damage with the copy. I'm dead. That happened to me a few times today, and they can do that like turns 5, 6, or 6, 7. Like, it is a even faster clock. Now, they don't always have the dragon that, like, they don't always have all the pieces that early to do it, but they often do. So that has made the hunter matchup a little harder, although I'd say it's still not like a terrible matchup by any means for the druid. In general, the druid's like got a good matchup spread, especially in, these first. It's only been, as we're recording this, it is Thursday. Miniset came out on Tuesday, so it has been like a little over 48 hours since we got the miniset. So keep that in mind as you're listening to this. But I am enjoying the Imbue Druid, and we'll be talking in Decksplanations more about all these decks. Yeah, life-wise, still playing a bit of No Man's Sky. Has creeped back into Hearthstone. I found a really pretty rainforest planet that has like no predator animals, no drones attacking you, no toxic snow. It does occasionally have like a rainstorm, but that's not bad.
Excuse me, toxic snow? Is that what you just said?
No toxic stuff or no snow.
Oh, okay. I thought it was toxic snow, and I'm like, wow. Like Santa has really been belching out some toxic fumes out of that workshop. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be a thing, but no, normally they only hit you with one type of environmental danger at a time in this game. Sometimes they'll hit it rather extreme, but usually only one at a time.
That's how you know it's escapism and not real life.
Exactly. If the planet's got radioactivity, then it won't be too hot or too cold.
Yes.
Or not have an atmosphere. Only one. Anyway, how are other people doing?
Well, I went to PAX. That was fun. I I got to, play some games. I got to go to the Final Fantasy Magic panel and came back with a my oldest daughter is the Final Fantasy obsessed one. It was not able to, I think I might have said this before, but she wasn't able to go because it was her senior prom. So luckily they handed out swag bags at that panel so I ended up getting her like an 18 by 24 poster of Cloud that's foiled and very cool. So I got her a frame for that because it's like, they said they had 3,000 of them. I'm assuming they're not making a whole lot more of them other than maybe for like their employees or whatever. So that might actually be worth something. I mean, I've still got an oversized Black Lotus up on my wall that's worth like over $100 or something like that. So, you never know. But yeah, that was pretty fun. The kids had a good time. I played some more Final Fantasy VI. I'm like more than halfway through that now and trying to get through to the end game. I get it now. I get what the hype is about. Turns out it's a good game. Spoilers. It's in case you were on the fence like me, Final Fantasy VI, good game, controversial opinion. But yeah, once the mini set came back, I tried the 2 big decks. I tried the Imbue Hunter and got a hand with only 4 cards, and like 2 of them were sing-along buddies and 2 of them were something else that was not a beast, and sat there and died and decided that was not the kind of gaming experience I was looking for. I tried the Imbue Druid and it was working, but I was having trouble keeping myself awake while I was playing it. And then No Hands Gamer decided to start playing a Control Warrior, and friends, nature is healing, because I actually got to play a control deck and climb with it. And I just lost my first game with it tonight, but it was quite the run up to then. I did play 1 mirror and it was bearable because so Fyrakk is doing exactly what I thought Fyrakk was going to do, which is disappointing people greatly.
It does clear boards a lot of the time. It does.
Well, it clears both boards, a lot of the time. And in a control mirror where neither person has a kill Jaden, it is especially bad because it draws a lot.
Yeah.
And this person had gotten a bot face. I don't remember how they got a bot face. Bot face is like the gigantic robot mech taunt that gives you minis whenever it gets hit. And I was hitting the crap out of it because I wanted to burn real cards. So they'd gotten a Shutter Block mini. And then they played Fyrakk, which is 10 mana exactly. And so fun fact, when you Shutter Block Fyrakk spells still hit face. That was something I was displeased to find out. But 60 mana worth of fire spells draws you a whole lot of cards. A whole lot of cards. And some of those are Eat the Imps. They had a pretty sizable board. They did not by the time this thing was done resolving. And I won that game. That was because they were like 4 or 5 cards deep into fatigue by the time that Fyrakk had finished resolving. And I felt pretty vindicated with how that was going to go. I also had 1 game against a rogue where I had gotten I played a Marin I played the Goblet who drew me Zarog's Crown, and ended up with someone in Discord said it looked like something out of Puzzle Lab. Because I had like 2 Incendiuses. No, I had no eruptions in the deck, but it had the 2 Incendiuses, or Incendii, I suppose. I don't know. And 2 Chilmaws, which are the giant dragon that if you're holding another dragon, it deals 3 damage to the board. Because I played it from Zarog's Crown, I by default had another dragon, which was the 3rd Chilmaw in my hand. So they traded that off and then everything died. It was like a giant rogue board and it all went away. It was absolutely delightful. I did the 1 game I lost was to an Imbue Druid, and that does seem like it's a difficult matchup. We'll talk about this more in the in Decksplanations, but been beating up on rogues and beating up on Imbue Hunters, and that's good enough. That's enough for a very positive win rate. So I am pleased with how this is progressing. I did not expect to be playing an actual control deck 2 days after the mini set drop, but I will take it when I can get it because I'm sure that this will not stay this way for very long.
I have been playing a little bit of Fyrakk in the Imbue Druid because I had seen that some lists had it, like instead of Malorn. Some lists didn't have either. But I was like, you know what? Before the show, I should play with Fyrakk. I have been seeing it, like some of the Ashamane Rogues, a lot of the decks, like you don't necessarily really want Ashamane against an Imbue Hunter, or because you won't get like the plush, and then it's not helpful to you. You don't necessarily want Ashamane against an Imbue Druid because it's not imbuing your hero power and doing anything. But Fyrakk will clear the board and often do some face damage and draw you some cards, and often that's what you want. So, but I found Fyrakk sometimes just cleared my own board, didn't clear their board, and gave me useless battlecry minions in my hand. Other times, I had one game where I actually had a board, but I thought, I need to play this now because I have nothing else to do. And they're a warrior and they're about to just run away with this game. So I played it, and it did not kill my board, and it killed their board, and it got them down to like 6. So trust Yogg, and sometimes Yogg will deliver.
Yeah, this is I don't know. This feels like Prison of Yogg-Saron at home is what it feels like to me, because it just I've yet to play it or see it played against me and feel like that was worth a 9 mana purchase. Like it does stuff. It sure does stuff, and it does feel impactful, but also when at the end of it's like, well, okay, good for you. And then we just, I guess in fairness, I've had it played multiple times when I've had a Tortola on board, and that is not the play because it still has elusive and it still can't get targeted by any of that stuff. So all you're doing is tickling it and making its attack stronger. So maybe that's just kind of skewing my and also like when you're playing in a control deck, it's really hard to time it because you never really dump your hand enough to benefit from the draw. Like you really need to be playing it like with a fairly empty hand in a control matchup.
Oh, you're saying if you're against another control deck?
If I'm playing it against if I'm playing it, it's probably in a control matchup. And if I'm playing in a control matchup, it's unlikely that I'm able to dump my hand enough to leave room for all the cards. And I probably don't want to be drawing because fatigue's a thing. So it's like, there's not really a great time to play it.
I guess I feel like I play it as an additional clear/draw in the matchups where I do sometimes run out of cards. And against another control deck, I would just turn it into a random legendary with the Golden Kobold.
Yeah, that's probably the play. Because like against anything that's not another control matchup, like are we getting to 9 mana? I guess we have new heights, so maybe sometimes. I don't know. It's felt mid to me.
My games have gone pretty long, even against aggressive decks. I feel like I get to 9 mana with the ramp and stuff. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, spoiler. I also have been playing this deck, the warrior. Just been looking for the kind of control deck that can actually handle some non-interaction, which is the hunter basically. I kind of feel like the hunter has pushed out other non-interaction decks because it's faster.
I mean, we didn't have that many anyway. Like the mage was, I mean, the mage and the Zarimi priest were already pushed out, right?
I still saw them, right? People like to play those decks, even if they weren't performing as well. People like the Zarimi, they like the mage. But what's nice about the warrior is like you get to run Bulwark, and if you have controlled the board and you have Bulwark, and they were not expecting Bulwark, and so they've already spent some of their few things that can hit your face once they've transformed the hero power, like it can just slow things to a crawl to give you time to either start creating boards to sort of force them to crush or dirty rat it out. And sometimes it's like, well, you don't hit the crush, but you hit the copying things.
Yeah, which is just as good.
Right. And I think what's sort of unique is like because they're so reliant on that, like, yes, they'll keep being able to buff it and they will be able to crush a board away, but you actually can at a certain point create pressure to sort of force them into that. And if you've got a bulwark, you won't die. So
yeah, and you usually have taunts up in front of the bulwark, right? So like if they're like they can't really chip away at the bulwark without playing crush, and if they're playing crush, they've used their win condition to chip down the bulwark instead of actually hitting your face.
I did one time. Someone managed to they got 2 copies that each were 30 attack, and then they had like a couple spells to
like they can do it. Yeah, they can do it because they have 2 bursting shots and 2 wound praise, and that's like just enough, and I think that's all that they really can do.
But they have to know and save those.
Exactly. And they're unlikely to, unless they played against that deck a lot.
Yeah, this was in the heroic roll, so maybe but or maybe I just got unlucky and didn't manage to get those out of their hand yet, but yeah, been enjoying that deck. I do want to, I saw a list earlier that I haven't gotten around to, which is the aggressive rogue with Fyrakk, because I had been sort of trying to land on a build for that and was like, I'm going to let someone else figure this out. And someone, I think, got rank 1 with it. So I will be taking a look at that because I do want to try out the 1 mana 4/2 weapon.
Yeah, that seems like a fun deck. I think right now the Ashamane Rogue, or Ashamane, except it has Fyrakk instead of Ashamane, is performing a little better overall, but it could just be like refinement issues on the Dark Gift Fyrakk Rogue. I'm not sure how that's going to land. But it certainly seems like it's at least playable and it looks fun. And, you still have Harbinger. You can still do that. I had one game versus a Rogue that had a really good Harbinger start. Not the absolute best Harbinger start, but like, Harbinger, Shadow Step, play Harbinger again, Web of Deception. As Imbue Druid, I didn't have the greatest start, but I did get a Mirdrasil down on 4 or maybe 5. And I just got I got the choose 1 AoE from Demon Hunter that usually used to summon Dread Seeds, and just clawed back and won. And I'm like, I can't believe I won this game because they had the start. But that is something that the Druid can do. But the Rogue does have, it has Harbinger, it has all that stuff, but then it also has the weapon and Nightmare Fuel, Creature of Madness.
The one I'm looking at has double rating party and metal detectors and dread corsairs, so it is exactly my kind of rogue.
Yeah, that's the insane list from Insane HS.
I don't know. HS Top Decks posted it as unknown.
We have one that's from Insane, and our
that also has that. I'm not sure if it's the same one.
And I guess that seems like a good enough cue to move on to news, because we're going to talk about this. This is what we're going to talk about. Decksplanations. We're doing this more, so we're going to talk about the new decks that you can play, and maybe talk about the decks that are old, but probably not, because you already know those, but you want to know about the new ones. So we're going to do that, but we have a little bit of news, and a moose-boosh of news, if you will. And then I feel very fancy when I get to use words like that.
I feel like I have had that word, phrase, whatever, come up like an abnormal amount this week. It was in my audiobook. It was mentioned by my father-in-law. You just now. I'm just like, what's happening? What's wrong with this week?
I've only heard it because Gordon Ramsay said it. It sounds much more elegant in an English accent. I'll tell you that much.
It's the word of the week.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll do some news, and then we'll talk more about decks. Let's do that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so we had a patch come out this week, patch 32.2.2. It is like 90% Battlegrounds. Obviously, the mini set is available, and that is the big constructed news. And then a lot of it is Battlegrounds updates. I am not qualified to speak to what is going on in this Battlegrounds update because it just scrolls forever. So if you are a Battlegrounds player, you probably want to give that a good read and then try to make sense out of it. And good luck to you. I'm sure that it is addressing some things that you were not happy with and maybe nerfed some things that you were happy with. And I'm happy for you or sorry that happened. The one main bug fix that's affecting Constructed in this patch is that they fixed a bug where players who got Creature of Madness from opening it into the Emerald Dream Pack, meaning after the initial claim period, only got one copy instead of two. After this fix is live, they'll do a separate grant to affected players so they get their second copy. This is, unless you are very recently coming back to the game, and welcome, we're glad to have you, you probably are not affected by this because this would have been affected by people who did not play between the announcement of Into the Emerald Dream and when the set launched. So you shouldn't be affected by this, but if you are, you know someone who is, or you have like an EU account or whatever that you haven't logged in a while, know that, and they'll make you whole. But that's it. Otherwise, it's all Battlegrounds fixes, Battlegrounds bugs, Battlegrounds trinket changes, Battlegrounds armor changes, you know, so on and so forth. So go, if you have interest in Battlegrounds, go read that. Otherwise, that's the only thing that changed. There were no balance patches for Constructed. We are expecting a balance patch. We're recording this on Thursday, so a week to 10 days from now, we're expecting a balance patch, just a normal post mini set balance patch. So that's probably when we'll see that, but just based on prior cadence.
They have a comment, a dev comment in the patch notes where they say that there are no Hearthstone mode balance changes in this patch because they'd like to see how the new mini set cards influence the shape of the format before making other changes. And they say the next balance window is coming shortly after launch, which is where we'll take a look at meta outliers, new or existing. We also have another balance window before the next expansion in early June in case we need to make additional adjustments then. So it's possible it might be a little earlier than usual, but probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, early maybe? June is 3 weeks away.
That would be a second one. So they have one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. If they have one in early June, that's 3 weeks away. So it's probably going to be on the shorter side than the longer side for when they're going to give us a balance patch now, if they're going to have time to be able to collect data and then design a balance patch and implement it by early June.
Well, and of note, this weekend is playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So there's nothing to tune in for that, unfortunately. I sort of hope that maybe down the line, once they've gotten more, I don't know, feeling more secure about Hearthstone esports, that maybe they'll let us promote that, maybe cast that or something. I think it would be nice for folks who made it to playoffs, because it is still a big deal.
Yeah. And also get some experience like TOing it, because they haven't done a tournament like that of that size that's been TO'd by Hearthstone esports in several years. So yeah, let them get one of those tournaments under their belt without having it being broadcast, and then they can figure out if that's how that's going to go.
So, at any rate, that's happening. I think it's good that, I mean, maybe not great that it's happening so soon after the mini set release, but I think it's good at least that balance is happening after that.
Yeah, that'll be another good data point for them. So we'll see. And
you mentioned potential second balance hit early June. I would guess that we'd be getting our first big event around then, right? Our sort of summer MT.
I would think so. We haven't gotten dates yet, have we?
No, we haven't gotten dates yet. We just know that there's going to be sort of summer, winter, and worlds. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically summer doesn't start till June 21st.
True, but they're still going to call it summer.
Yes. I mean, unless you're going by the unofficial start of summer, which is Memorial Day, but that's only here in the States. So.
Yeah. Maybe they'll call it spring. I don't know. But yeah, there's going to be two seasonals and then worlds. Yeah. But I sort of would assume that, as per usual, that will happen not long after a balance patch. So
yeah. Well, that's okay. They're. I mean, if hopefully they're gonna announce the date of it like before more than a week before the event takes place. Like so, but we'll see what happens. This is a new regime with esports, so hopefully they've learned from the mistakes of their forebears. But yeah, so we will have a lot to talk about next week. With what's going on with playoffs. So it may be all moot from a meta perspective if there's going to be a balance patch right after that, but we shall see. But in the meantime, if you want to spend some money, you sure can do that. So first of all, if you are listening to this, you probably are already aware, but in case you were not, the mini set is live. You can go buy it. $15 USD or 2,000 gold for the main regular version. If you want the golden version, it's $70 USD or 10,000 gold. And that comes with a diamond Fyrakk the Blazing as well. So if you are a true Fyrakk enjoyer, then you can go ahead and do that. And then at least you'll have something pretty to look at as it hits you in the face and blows up your board. So there's also a diamond Winter Queen Druid hero skin. This is $25 USD or 2,500 runestones.
Very nice looking.
It's very pretty. It comes with 3 Druid packs and 2 Golden Standard packs. That's with the Diamond hero portraits. It should be available from the collection screen to buy even after this, but then you don't get the packs with it, which is where the extra plus 20% value on the store is coming from. We get that question occasionally. Because it's like, well, how is it plus 20% value if it's just going to go out of the store and that's the only way you can buy it? It is not actually the only way you can buy it. It's just the only way you can buy it right this second. So there's also a new line of signatures, the ink wash signatures that look very cool. So there is a ink wash signature Volacross bundle, which is $35 USD or 3,500 runestones. That comes with the Volacross signature card for Death Knight along with 2 Death Knight packs. There is an Inkwash signature Tindril Sage Swift bundle, which is the same price and comes with 2 standard packs for that as a neutral. And there's also an Inkwash signature Black Knight bundle, which also comes with 2 standard packs because that is also a neutral. That one's in the core set. That is probably the coolest looking one and most likely the most functional of the 3. But that's the only concern I would have is that none of these are seeing any standard play right now, but that may just be a function of the meta more so than whether they're ever going to be viable. But you can also, if you really like them, you can get all 3 at a discount for $90 USD or 9,000 runestones. So that would be about a $15 savings because they're all $35 a piece, 35, 70, 105, all 3 together. So you save $15 or 1,500 runestones if you buy all 3 as a bundle. And you get all the packs along with it.
I'm genuinely surprised I have not seen more Tindril.
I saw one. And I don't remember if it was in Arena or Constructed, though. But I did see one, and it did seem good. So
I guess because if it gets plushed, it doesn't matter, right? Like, plush seems quite strong against a potential Death Rattle Demon Hunter.
You can also just ignore it. So,
I saw a Death Rattle Demon Hunter with Tindril right after the mini set, as soon as I had a chance to play on Tuesday. But I was playing Imbue Hunter, and so I killed them. But if something happens to Imbue Hunter, then maybe we will see it. I do think it's a cool card.
Or maybe Demon Hunter might run it. I mean, it's going to dilute their pool a little bit for Ball Hog, but it also kind of does Ball Hoggy type things. So maybe that's something that could fit in there.
They kind of have different uses, right? Like, if you are able to consistently put yourself in the role of aggressor, I think Tindril is better because it always goes face when it dies. It hits their whole board, right? Like, you want to be forcing them to be like, oh god, this sucks, but it's better to kill Tindril than to just keep getting hit in the face for 4, right? Or like, oh, I've been letting this hit me in the face for 4, and now I'm in a bind because I'm gonna die to the damage no matter what. But I don't know if the like build of Death Rattle Demon Hunter has that kind of pressure, right? Like it with the Quillbore, you're sort of more leaning towards this is a lot of value and lifesteal and it kills your stuff. With Tindral, you kind of need to be hitting them in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're hitting them in the face kind of all at once at the end in that deck, not necessarily in chunks, and it also like it doesn't work great off the discover a Death Rattle minion that died and trigger its Death Rattle because it's only going to be one on your turn because it's always going to be on your turn. So yeah, it's probably not as good, but you know, I'm sure there are use cases for it.
There's got to be aggro decks that use that at some point in the next 2 years. Like,
yeah, most likely. So the last two are a little bit, your mileage may vary, but there is a tavern special that some people are getting as kind of a personalized offer, which is 2 random legendaries and 20 packs for $20 USD or 2,000 runestones. Also, there's a Bob's Bargain bundle, which is 2 random legendaries and 20 standard packs for $20 USD or 2,000 runestones. You may get these, you may not. If you get them and you need the cards, it's not a bad deal. I mean, getting 2 legendaries, the 20 packs will cost you generally more than $20 if you're buying them that way, and getting 2 legendaries guaranteed on top of it, it's a pretty good deal. So if you need to fill out your set, then you can go ahead and do that. Just if you're going to do that, and you're planning on buying the mini set, make sure you do that first. Because if you don't have the mini set in your collection, you could end up opening cards that are in the mini set and not cards that you want from the main set. So just be aware if you are holding off for some reason on buying the mini set and then you go to buy something like this, you probably want to make sure that you pay the 2,000 gold for the mini set first. Yeah, that's it for news. So, hey, we haven't talked about decks in about, 10 minutes? So let's talk about decks.
all right, so we have made a list in the show notes of, again, this is day 2, but some new and or improved decks, and then also several decks that are still good with little to no change. So obviously we'll focus mostly on the new and or improved decks. We have Imbue Hunter and Imbue Druid, which we've started talking about. The Dark Gift Rogue with Fyrakk that we mentioned. Ashamane Rogue with Fyrakk is not super different, but it has Fyrakk in there. And the Control Warrior. So all of these we've talked about a little bit, but we wanted to go into a little bit more depth. And then some of the decks that are definitely still good from before the mini set, Drunk Paladin. Also Aggro Paladin, if you want to play some aggro. It's just like sneakily on the top of HS Guru meta tier list like all the time. Especially like Diamond 3 Legend, a little bit less at super top ranks, but that's true for a lot of aggro decks.
And that's running things like, like the auras, and it's running Flash Sale and stuff like that. It's just going wide and buffing everything and then trying to just smork down your opponent. I did run into that. I was surprised by it. I still think I won with the warrior, but I was surprised that it was a thing that was happening. But it is still viable.
I think people are desperately trying to get under the hunter.
Yeah. This is something that might be able to get under the hunter, and probably more so than the Drunk Paladin right now, if you're seeing just a lot of hunters, which like day 1, it was like 33% Imbue Hunters, Diamond 3 Legend. It was crazy. Hand buff DK is actually good into the hunter. And actually, I'm not sure if it's good into the hunter. It's good into the druid. If you're seeing a lot of druid, hand buff DK is actually pretty good into that. Other DKs are terrible into the druid, so it's not like a super good matchup, but it's like better than other Death Knight. Except for Druid, Menagerie Death Knight's pretty good. Protoss Rogue, if you want to play Rogue, solid option still. Warlock, kind of interesting. The Wheel Warlock without the Starship is doing a lot better right now than Wheel Warlock with the Starship.
Sure.
So, I was helping my teammate Noglako test. Now, I maybe was playing the Imbue Druid poorly. He's definitely a better player than me. He qualified for playoffs as proof, but he was trying out like a Demon Hunter deck, and I don't even know if Wheel was in there. I never saw it. It was never necessary because you play Kill Jaden and you get to the point of like, I'm going to clear the board every turn and I'm drawing a bunch of cards and I play a bunch of big demons. And that will beat most things. The newest tech, I guess, is Panda, the Brewmaster. So let me tell you, if you are a deck like Imbue Druid and you get to that point at the end of the game where you haven't been able to kill them, and you're like, oh, I have to deal with 3 times Ceaseless Expanse. It's pretty disheartening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. That certainly would be. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure I will.
And then against Hunter, of course, you Panda the Dirty Rats. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. I like that. Yeah.
Well, doing the usual...
Ancient of Yore, yeah.
Yeah, to gain tons and tons of armor.
Yeah,
oh,
of course.
And you've got Conflagrate now, right? Which is a very easy way to be able to... Your Ancient of Yore wakes up, you put the enchantment on it to summon 2 of them, and you Conflagrate it.
Oh, and then you draw another card. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just like turbo drawing through the deck, and it's pretty insane. And then I think there was also the double Glacial Shard, double freeze thing. The Death Knight freeze, Slippery Slope.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, you need to do that because you don't have enough clears to deal with all the boards. So you need to have something. You probably run Bob too, I would imagine, just for the freeze.
No. I mean,
Hmm.
sometimes you in an aggressive matchup you'll Panda a Glacial Shard, right? But I think it's just like you draw very quickly and are able to stall. Once you start doing the give everything reborn and they die, well, that accelerates Ceaseless quite quickly because you're killing a bunch of minions, resummoning them, and then killing all of theirs again at the location. So it's a lot of deaths to accelerate Ceaseless, and then you can Panda the Ceaseless. I'm sure it's not as strong as it felt in that case, because like probably you can get under it with the right stuff, but man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure sometimes it just doesn't draw any of the clears, or it doesn't draw the pieces of the clears together, and then it's...
Or doesn't draw Ancient, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps. But, I mean, I was trying to, and maybe this was the wrong approach, I was trying to, as Imbue Druid, like, be aggressive, and it just was not working.
Yeah, I think that might be tough I think that, like, on HS Replay, the match shows is even-ish, a little bit favored for the Druid, but also I could imagine that the deckless Warlock probably that refinement hasn't spread as much as the Imbue Druid refinements. So I could absolutely see that turning into an unfavored matchup for the Druid.
I also wouldn't be surprised if we sort of see Imbue Druid's win rate go down over time. I mean, they might hit it in some way in general, but like you said, Wicked, you were playing it and you were like, I'm falling asleep, right?
Yeah.
There are intricacies, right? On whether you go sort of fast or slow. Do you use your robot? I think is kind of the big thing. Is like, are you trying to go for just like 3/3 to 5/5 size things doubled up in the sort of mid game to smork down, or are you saving those for like the really big stuff later? And I think that's kind of the big decision. When do you play Shaladrasil? A couple of Discover choices, but it largely is like, Imbue, don't die, make bigger green man.
For me, I'm almost always, and I was talking to Hat about this in the Discord he was recommending as well, like almost always going for the sing-along buddy as soon as it's not just going to get cleared in the things we summon. Like at least 3/3s, better 4/4s. It's not going to get, but like if you're doing that like on turn 4, great. It's really about like, how do I get the biggest things fastest while also still hitting the button? So it's almost like a little math challenge. But it doesn't have super different play and different matchups in a way
I mean,
that
it's got one
other
mode.
decks do.
It does one thing, and it's like Bart Simpson, like walking forward, kicking, right? It's like, I hope you don't get in the way because you're going to get clobbered. Like, that's what it is. And if you can dodge out of the way, then, you know exactly what Imbue Druid is going to do. There is no mystery around it. It is going to make larger and larger men. And if you have a way to deal with larger and larger men, then you'll probably be able to build it. Like, I was thinking about if it wasn't going to get clobbered by everything else, right? And maybe this is something, if Imbue Druid is still around after whatever balance patch is going to happen, like, Control Priest might just be fine against it, right? If that's a large part of the meta, because you've got Shadow Word Ruin, you've got Light Bomb, which is going to work because they're all even stats. You've got Repackage, right? You can run Bob. You could probably run like an Aviana, Champions of Azeroth package just to be able to finally finish the game out, and then just, put a few other control pieces in, and then, and draw, and then you probably could get there. Like, that might be something that's valuable if that's going to be what's happening. But you can't play that right now just because there's so many, like, you die to Hunter probably every time if you try to do that. And you probably die to the Rogue too, because like a lot of that removal is slow.
Side note, Hunter hate. I saw a Blood Decay running Viper.
Okay.
They didn't have any other Zerg cards. It was just double Rat and double Viper.
Sure.
We had someone in the Discord, and they were like, I know this is probably incorrect. I just really hate Hunter. They were running Clumsy Steward, which is the one that makes cards drawn temporary.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
That feels like a pretty solid tech, but more for an aggressive deck.
Yeah, I can't remember what exactly they were playing with it. That actually could be annoying for a lot of decks if you're playing aggressively. That they just, like, if you're ahead on board and they just can't clear that thing, that could really... I have seen, like, randomly generated Clumsy Stewards every once in a while, and it can actually be very frustrating.
It's very confusing when it happens too, because you don't normally see that card. So it's like, wait a minute, why is my card like a different color when wavy? What's going on? Like, what is happening?
Well, no matter what, it hits their top card, right? Because they don't have an opportunity to deal with it, and even if they kill it, that card is temporary, right? Like,
at people, in terms of like, should they hit the Hunter? So on the one hand, the win rate of the Hunter has dropped a lot over the past couple of days. It's not balance-wise overall overpowered. However, it is a pretty polarized deck, which can be meta warping. It's been a little too popular, and people just really, really don't like the playstyle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some people enjoy playing the playstyle, of course. A lot of people really, really don't like facing the playstyle. And often that kind of playstyle consideration plays a lot into balance changes. If they, I would love to see an Imbue Hunter that's using some of the other beasts, like the new mini set beast that's got is it cleave damage or like over the top? There's a new one.
So excess damage is arcane missiled across the enemy board.
So it's sort of trample, but it hits weird. The board too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also like, I think the problem with this Imbue package is that it really does incentivize like going all in on one big beast rather than playing a bunch of beasts and getting like mid-range value out of it over the game. So yeah, like this is how you get ants, right? Like that's just what it is. Because like I'm sure that like the original intention was something along the lines of, well, we're gonna play a whole bunch of beasts and we're gonna make them cheaper and give them a lot more attack, and then just play a bunch of big value beasts. And like that's not the way that people's brains work when they're trying to brew for standard. It's just like, how can I abuse the living hell out of this?
It's also just not the way cost reduction works.
Yeah.
If you could aim it, I think that would potentially be really good. But since you can't, when we were playing the versions that had all the beasts, like in theory crafting, you were like, you never knew whether you could hit the button, because you'd be like, okay, well, if I hit the thing I want to hit, then I should hit the button. But if I don't hit the thing I want to hit, then I wasted my turn and floated a mana. Like, it was just really awkward. So it would still have to be a limited pool, probably. There also is Patrick Pals and Huffer, which I'm sure they're aware of, is a thing that exists if we don't have plush. Like, or whatever,
I think it would be kind of cool to end a game with like, look, I got Goldrin really cheap, and I got this huge of that new beast that does the excess damage thing, and like it doubles that damage. Like, that's a lot of work that feels pretty earned. But when it's just, nope, we have 2 beasts. It's plush and the Imbue beasts.
Some of them don't even run the Imbue beasts.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Then you always have plush.
No, I see it. Yeah, that makes some sense to me. I mean, the other thing is, like, as long as you can have limited minions, you can use things like bird watching to target. You can use things like
fetch, even.
Yeah, fetch and the demon, right? The Dark Gift demon. So, yeah. Hate to say I told you so.
But you did. Yep. Now it is on record. So, I mean, if, for people who are enjoying it right now, like, it's a deck in the game. Yeah. Play it, enjoy it. Yeah. It's kind of a little bit of a puzzle. I've been seeing improvements in it, but it does seem like something that, even though it's not a overall win rate outlier for both kind of polarization reasons and sentiment reasons, I would be more surprised if they didn't do something.
Yeah.
With it. The question is just like, what,
There's a 0% chance that they ignore it, right? Like, a deck that can consistently, and when I say consistently, I mean like half the time, maybe a little less than half the time, go off on 7.
I think probably at least half the time they can go off on 7.
I would say that that's
occasionally
pretty generous,
they can get 6.
Against a deck that is a 30 life no armor class, right?
Okay, true. Yeah.
It can consistently go off on 7 and inconsistently go off on 6, which you just get got by that, right? Like,
yeah,
that doesn't stay.
That's Nature Shaman. At that point, it's Nature Shaman, except for easier to pull off. So, yeah. And there is Dirty Rat, but that kind of Dirty Rat as your plan thing is... It's like a safety valve. It's not necessarily what we want to be happening in a lot of games.
We didn't end up I think at this point it's sort of too late to talk about the Gibbler video, but I think he sort of encompassed this problem well before the mini set came out. He sort of said, I don't see these issues being addressed in the mini set, so I'm going to try it, but I'll probably stick to playing other games. And he's sort of like, yeah, it got worse.
Well, and by these issues, what he was expressing was that he felt like and correct me if you think this is a misrepresentation, but there was sort of too much, I don't know if OTK is the right word, but
uninteractive combos, I think, is probably the way to put it. Because, like, in other games, you have actual discard, right? And like you can go look at somebody's hand and like rip something out of it and say, no, you're not doing that. And I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing that you can't do that. Cause I mean, we had, I've repressed the memory. Thank you. Yeah. So we had Theatar, and like, that was, nobody liked that. Right. And if we have a meta where we have to run something like that, it's not that the cure is worse than the disease at a certain point. But at the same time, something like a Dirty Rat it's not really consistent enough for you to be able to rely on that as a plan, just because you don't know what they have. It's random anyway. And then if you use your one removal thing and you whiff, then you've just wasted it. If you hit, then you also need to be able to deal with an 8/8 that you've just put onto the board. So yeah, it's hard to have any sort of an actual, plan for something that just towards everything in hand, and there's no real hand disruption or a way to even like increase the costs of these things because it's all being discounted. You can't play a taunt because plush just annihilates them all. So
Yeah.
there's really just not a whole lot that you can do if you let them get going other than just kill them. And for some players, that's fine. Like that is a valid way that they want to play. There are other players, and I'm one of them, who would rather just not engage rather than getting forced into playing aggro or playing the deck in question. If those are the choices, then, it's not, neither one is particularly appealing.
I mean, I think what was included among his list was the Warlock Ancient of Yore, resurrection stuff, right? That's like, that is also an engine that you do not get the chance to interact with, right? Unless they make a mistake,
Yeah.
right? Or let it happen, because the Ancient of Yore wakes up on their turn and they have the opportunity to give it reborn or put the cursed enchantment on it and start summoning more. And it's just this huge amount of armor. And so that's not a thing that immediately kills you. In some ways, it's worse. It's a thing that makes you unable to win, depending on the deck you're playing, while they draw a ton of cards. And then at that point, wheel is a blessing. But but there's, the Protoss the Protoss Mage.
Yeah, that's another one.
Which perhaps the reason we don't see the Imbue Mage in a similar light is just because it gets outclassed by Protoss Mage and other decks that do this kind of thing. Yeah. I think it's just like, before the mini set, there were all these different decks that maybe weren't that great decks, and if you were high up, you wouldn't see any one of them a ton, but there's so many of them, and people like playing different ones, that you very frequently are encountering this problem, such that it makes playing an Imbue Priest or any sort of like, I mean, Kibler likes mid-range decks, right? I'll just say it, right? Like, and that is a thing that consistently has been hard to make work in Hearthstone, because the types of interaction are more limited. Dirty Rat is a bad card if you are playing something that isn't control, and you just feel sort of stuck, that like you just can't experiment with a certain type of deck or sort of range of turns, because you get shut down by this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's also just not a lot of good interaction in Standard right now. Like, there's just a lot of the reason that a lot of these decks can, like, aside from the non-interactive ones, but the reason that something like a Paladin or Imbue Druid can exist is because there are not really good control tools. And this is people, and I get it. People complain when there's a lot of control in the meta and it feels like they can't do anything, but control exists for a reason.
Well, I would say that the Imbue Druid is quite interactive. It doesn't have any over-the-top damage, hardly. I mean, I lost 2 games in the Heroic Brawl in a row because I couldn't do 1 damage over the top.
I mean, I would not include Imbue Druid actually in
no, I think it's it's the other side of it, right? Which is like the Paladins and like the Druid, where you have like, you stick a big thing, right? And then if you stick that big thing, you're probably going to be able to connect with that a couple times. That's usually enough to swing the game in your favor, right? Like that's the other side of it. I think that was more Kibler's perspective when he was recording that video, because that was pre-mini set. But that was the other kind of feature of this meta, is like the, that or the hand buff Death Knight and stuff like that. So
right, yeah, I guess hand buff Death Knight is also sort of like, you build up to this.
Yeah. You build this giant board and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like there aren't really any good, clears for a board like that, especially not at on the turns that they, or
Rogue with Harbinger is sort of like, well, this stuff is smaller, but it's happening on turn 1.
Yeah, it's happening earlier. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but the other side there is, if there are control tools for every possible thing that can be done, you can't interact with those control duels as the aggressor.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Actually, I don't think Wicked, you focus on control tools because that's what you want. I think, in fact,
Yeah.
Wicked is not necessarily a control guy. So control tools is not really his
It's interaction,
his
right?
thing, right?
It's interaction.
It's just ways of playing around these things, right?
Yeah.
And that means that that's not at the necessarily give me cards that help me respond to this thing, but in the design things that I can respond to by adjusting the way I play.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm kind of distilling that down to control tools, but really it's interaction, right? It's ways to interact with the things that are happening on in some of these decks, and there just aren't. It's like I guess what he was really what he was saying, and again I'm paraphrasing, and you should go watch the video. We'll link it in the show notes, but like that, it felt like everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and that is still kind of what's happening to some extent. Like there's not as much interactivity between the decks as much as I'm going to do this thing, and if you can't stop it or you can't go faster, then I'm going to win, right? That's when the only real way to interact is go faster and kill them before they get started. That works for some people, but that doesn't work for everybody.
So, I mean, I think this is obviously a real experience that Kibler is having, and I do like playing decks where you go faster and kill them. I think now something like the Imbue Hunter, it really is like, for me,
That's
the
your
game
option.
is the puzzle of how to go faster because I'm not playing the Bulwark Control Warrior. So that I think absolutely does have that problem. Although, I don't necessarily mind that puzzle. But for a lot of things, I mean, even with the Paladin, the Paladin has how do I put this? Whoever is the beatdown in the game, which can depend partly on archetype or just like opening draws and stuff like that, I think in a lot of decks, you do have the question of how do I play this deck to be a little bit awkward to my opponent? Like that's your interaction is I'm going to make this awkward. If you do it successfully enough, your opponent feels like there's nothing they can do, but it wasn't just because it's not necessarily just because your deck was built that way. And similarly, if you don't have quite the right draw, you don't set it up quite right, they have the clears.
Yeah.
You as a proactive person feel like there was nothing you could do.
Yeah.
But it's partly because they picked well on how to manage your board, right? So I think what counts as good interaction, there are some cases where like it's pretty clear cut, like the Imbue Druid. I mean, the Imbue Hunter, rather. But I think there's a lot of cases where it does come down partly to player preference, what feels like interaction to you.
Yeah. It's not preordained by any chance, but it can feel kind of hopeless a lot of the time, depending on, or at least it could. Yeah.
I think with what you're saying is it's like, yeah, when you are playing something more aggressive, you can do those things, right? Try and make it awkward on the turns that they're going to do stuff. That absolutely is like the great kind of interaction. But once you start doing something that's a little bit slower, that can't go under, that's where it's like, well, I will do my best to be fast enough, but the Zarimi Priest is going to draw their deck and kill me. The Colossus Mage is going to get their Colossi and bounce them and kill me. And like, even if they start that before they have lethal, it clears your board, the Colossus.
Yeah.
And the Paladin is gonna Ursol Shaladrusil and then have these waves of from hand damage clear buffs, right? Like you can't leave a single minion because it can get Lanessa buffed and then double awakens. So it's just, I think it is the feeling of like each deck has to have this crazy power thing that is sort of a must be this tall to ride. And it limits ability to be creative because there's only so many of those kinds of power plays, power interactions. And oftentimes when you are coming up with with like new and different stuff, it lands in that range of like, well, this might not be a control deck, but it's not fast enough to get under that speed limit.
You have to be a control deck effectively, or just get out of the way.
Right.
Because if you're not going to go fast enough, then you have to be able to answer everything, and that's not an option for a lot of decks.
And it's those decks that are like, well, no, Dirty Rat is an actively bad card in the deck that isn't a control deck but doesn't meet the speed limit. But it can feel like, but it's my only way to have a chance against these things, and even then, it's not the greatest chance.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, polarized matchups never feel good, right? Like, you feel like that's part of it too, I think. I think, there are... I can see the argument for some of this. It's a little bit different than my experience, although I do feel that facing the Warlock, like where I feel it is facing the Warlock, where I'm like, okay, you've done your thing, so I can just leave now.
Because it's defensive, right?
Like it's like where you're gonna feel it is in the Warlock, or like a death, or like a Death Knight, right? Where they just gain 1,000,000 life, or they gain 1,000,000 armor, and there's no way that you can even interact with like the dormant minions that are giving them the armor. Right. And then they can kill it off before you can do anything about it, because they can just curse campaign and kill it off and then get 3 more of them. And now what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I suppose like the difference between if they just have a normal sort of aggressive versus slower matchup, right, is you're trying to be awkward before they stabilize. But you can't do much. Like, they're just going to get the Ancient of Yore down. Like, they're going to stabilize as a time limit rather than anything that you did. I can see that argument. And I think one can argue about which metas have this more than others. And I know there are people also who like decks with a lot of inevitability, but there's going to be, those decks also are always attract a lot of people who are really frustrated about them as well.
I think it's also just been kind of deceptive because a bunch of them are like 51% decks or even 49% decks. And the felt power level is distinctly less than Stormwind. Right? Like those decks that did that gave these kinds of feelings were very obviously like well-tuned combo decks. Many of them, or really powerful aggro decks, or whatever it was. Like, it was just a high powered format. This, comparatively, the games are longer many times, barring the now, turn 7 or sometimes 6 Imbue Hunter games. It takes a while for the mage to build up to those colossi, but they have a lot of defensive tools and things. Turn 8 is when Shaladursil comes down. In a sense, the Warlock gets going soonest because it plays the Ancient of Yore on 5 if it has it. But it is so widespread, this feeling in how decks play out, that it can feel inescapable. Like, you're facing different things, but they each have their sort of like trump card. Do you have it? If not, like...
Of all of these, my favorite, even though I was, feeling unhappy with it, and I do think the Drunk Paladin, especially pre-miniset, we'll see where it lands after miniset, was pretty powerful. It's really frustrating when they get that, like, perfect Lanessa on 6. I had that happen, like, twice right before we recorded last week, and that had me grumpy. But it's a interesting and somewhat difficult play pattern sometimes to get off. Not so much the Ursul Saladrisil, although in that case you have to be in a place to survive playing your Ursul and nothing happening that turn. So
right, it's a big weak spot when they're facing an aggressive deck, and that's why these decks have the win rates that they have. Right,
it's like that one hatch in the Death Star, right? Like that's basically what it is.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just that thing of like, I'm playing a deck that wants to kill you, doesn't necessarily want to control, which means I'm not necessarily running, tech cards, control things, but I am not hyper aggressive, and yeah, you just can't get under some of those things, or you don't have the tools to react to a harbinger step prep the other bounce thing, right? Like, I mean, not a lot of decks can deal with that in general.
Yeah. But we've had plenty of metas where if you just tried to go in on one big Divine Shield minion, like that was not a recipe for success, even close, right? Like I think it's also kind of a feature of just there just isn't enough interaction to be able to at least even draw something that's going to answer that a lot of time. Like you have things in the deck, but not enough of them. So it's likely that you're just going to whiff more often than not. And then that just snowballs. You know, it just takes like, you have one window where you can stop it from going completely out of control. And if you miss that window, it's just, then there's nothing else you can do.
I mean, I genuinely think Kibba's argument, in fact, is not give me more tech cards, though, or give me more
it's not.
Tools.
It's not.
It is, please design differently or design fewer of these things, because it feels like every deck has something like that it can do. Yeah.
It's tough with cards that affect minions on the board, because if you have too many of those, then that really encourages off-board gameplay, right? Mm-hmm. But if you don't have enough of those, then not everyone likes just smashing minions together on the board. So that part I think is tough. But I think we've
beaten this horse to death. Yes, I agree. Yes.
So we've talked about this Imbue Hunter a lot, I think. We talked about the Imbue Druid a lot as well. That I think, I don't know what they'll do to hit. If they hit it, my guess would be a Mirdrasil, because that card it is 4 mana. It is the second best mulligan win rate card after Innervate. If you get that on curve, it is insane. If you get it off curve, it's still good. If you move that to 5 mana, that would be a significant hit, I think, because every charge is a turn later, but you'd probably still play it.
I think that's the change, because you kind of can't touch any of the other numbers.
I mean, you could make it 3 spells. That would probably kill the deck.
What do you mean 3 spells?
Like make Hamul's Imbue, auto Imbue 3 spells. But that would probably kill it.
I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to kill it. I think it's...
Oh, I'm not saying we need to kill it. I'm just saying, I'm trying to think of, what else they could do, and that's the only other thing that I could think of, and that would probably kill the deck.
You could hit Chameleon, maybe. That would be a pretty small hit, but that is a nice card. For if you made that 2 mana, it's a lot harder to weave in.
Yeah. The other interesting thing you could do is you can make Hamul only advance it if you're casting nature spells instead of all spells. That could also be an interesting way to kind of bring it down a little bit. But
I think that would bring it down a lot, actually, because the coin things you generate. So Symbiosis generates non-nature spells.
Yeah.
Photosynthesis generates non-nature spells. I guess that's not a huge number of non-nature spells.
I mean, Symbiosis is still going to also generate some nature spells, because there are a lot of nature spells in Druid. Not Symbiosis, Photosynthesis. Sorry, the heal one. They all have too many syllables, and it's getting very confusing.
Some decks have replaced Photosynthesis with Petal Picker.
Yeah.
I don't think Petal Picker is the hit.
No, I don't think so.
One, because if we ever want to see other Imbue decks, we don't want to hit Petal Picker. And it's also not even in every list of the Imbue Druid that's doing well on HS Guru. So that's not the hit, I don't think.
You could hit Sing Along Buddy, maybe.
I guess that doesn't feel...
I don't know what you would do to it. Maybe you make it 3 mana. I don't know, but...
Yeah, I'm not that concerned about Imbue Druid. I do think Imbue Druid is insane and could be 5 mana, right? But I would be fine with you do the hit to a Mirdrasil, see what happens.
Yeah.
Or maybe something else tame, right? Make the Give a Thing Rush a 2-minute 2/3 instead of a 1-minute 1/2.
Yeah, fine.
But I don't think they need to go super hard on Imbue Druid, because of what I described earlier. That it's a pretty linear deck. I feel like people will adjust. You know how it works. You know what its game plan is. It's very predictable. most of the time in its turns. So,
And
Yeah.
it's not super polarized.
right.
I mean, it has better and worse matchups, but so does any deck. It's not like the Hunter where there's, decks that are not too tall to ride in a really extreme way. It does mean that you have to either have a way to deal with an early board or have your own early board. But
Yeah.
that's kind of any proactive deck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they're going to address something like that, I think they'd be more likely to hit Harbinger.
I
And
don't.
Rogue,
I think it's a yes and. I mean, I think that Harbinger is also one of the things that I'm sure that they're. I mean, Harbinger's been one of the only consistent things across all those decks, other than like the summon a 4/4 stealth thing, which goes along with Harbinger, right? I mean, I guess Dreambound Disciple's another card that if they wanted to, they could look at. I don't know if that's really gonna do anything either. I'm just looking at the other cards that are unique to Imbue Druid. I mean, I don't think that's really going to make a difference.
Harbinger is just Atlas holding up the class is my concern. And
Well, you know what I'm going to say to that? I'd say let it fall,
know.
but that's beside the point.
I both think it's a problem and hope that there's enough other stuff that just hasn't been able to be experimented with because Harbinger is the thing. It makes me nervous that like if we touch Harbinger and then the class goes away. I'm not sure if that would happen, but
I mean, Rogue is very strong right now, especially as usual for Rogue at higher ranks.
Mhm.
So, but it's hard to say, like, how many percentage points of win rate is just early Harbinger blowouts.
Yeah.
But if we're concerned about things where like you just high rolled and your opponent's like, well, I guess I'm going next, like early Harbinger blowouts is on that list for sure. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, what would happen if it summoned 1/3 drop instead of 2/2 drops? Just hypothetically.
I think it's not worth it because that's not worth a bounce.
Mm. Or maybe 2 1-drops, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually think going to 3 mana would be a better change than that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe it should be, right? Like if you're getting 4 mana's worth out of it. Like, I mean, the problem is that you're spending 2 cards and 2 mana to get 2 cards and 4 mana, right? Usually, because you're usually shadow stepping it.
Right. But you would sometimes then replay it for 0.
Right.
And potentially prep out or regular play the bounce, make a 4/4 stealth.
Which is still paying 3 cards. I mean, I guess you're not really paying 2 cards in the shadow step example because then you still have the Harbinger to play again.
I mean, I think what you want to do is not have the games where they go like turn 1, coin, Harbinger, prep, web, play, or like
play it again, step it,
play it again, shard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have had, it doesn't happen that often, but the extreme high roll is like, really? If it costs 3, you could not do that.
You know what we could do? We could nerf shadow step. That's what we could do.
No, Wicked, you understand. We always nerf things to 3 so that when you shadow step them, they're no longer cost 0.
What if we just dealt with the problem? Anyway, sorry. That's just like, look, just let me have my 15 seconds of joy. Like, just let me envision a world where shadow step didn't exist. Just give me 15 seconds to enjoy that and then come crashing back to Earth. There are so few sources of pure joy in the world right now. Just let me have this one.
That's like me saying, can we please just make DK never gain max health ever?
Oh yeah, I want that. No, I want them to stop doing that and give it to Priest instead, but that's beside the point. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious whether the Dark Gift Rogue is going to refine into, like, right now it's sort of low tier 2. But I'm curious whether that could refine into something.
I mean, Cinder Sword's a good card, right? I mean,
because it does feel like that's got to be a good card.
It's Cinder Sword's a good card, and we're already running the Dark Gift stuff in those decks anyway. So it's not really like it's asking you to do all that much that you weren't already doing. So maybe you go into it a little bit harder to make sure that you turn your Cinder Sword on, but I don't think that's a huge ask.
One thing that I would be interested in if they do touch Harbinger and it dies is the new Phoenix is just not being played, right? The death rattle return it to your hand and it gets discounted whenever you play a card. And I feel like that could work well with the coin weapon, of course. And it's an elemental, which is not a thing that Rogue has a lot of. Like, I want to play a Menagerie Jug Rogue deck.
I would play that. That would get me to play Rogue.
Because you've got, the dark gifts, you're going to be discovering things of maybe you prioritize tribes sometimes. And then with the weapon, Dread Corsair is free. So that's pirate, and there's other pirates in the class. Like, I'd be very interested in a Menagerie Jug aggro Rogue, but there's no way to like fit it all in right now because you need Harbinger plus bounces plus all the dark gifts and like.
I mean, you probably just generate random like typal creatures off of the Harbinger, right? I mean, we could probably do those odds and figure out like how many of those there are, but
I just mean there's not space in the deck list.
No, but I'm saying like I guess but you could probably just like hit even without having to run the elemental, you probably could just hit enough typal things to just justify the jug if you wanted to.
I tried it.
Okay. This is why I don't play Rogue, because it doesn't make any sense to me. So,
Well, if you like playing Rogue, listener, there are multiple options for you. There's the Ashamane Rogue or Fyrakk Rogue of that style. There's the Protoss Rogue, still a good option. Cliff Dive Demon Hunter, I didn't mention that. Still fine. Play that. Probably will be especially so after they do something about Imbue Hunter, assuming that they will, which they probably will. So, yeah, and we mentioned the Control Warrior. If you want to be getting that control in, we have a list in the show notes. Now, again, when they do balance changes, things may change, but that is an option for you.
I would expect this also. I don't expect them to hit anything in this deck, but I expect this deck to get a lot worse when the things that it's targeting go out of the meta. Like it is very tailored to hate on Imbue Hunter, and it hits Rogue. It just happens to hit Rogue with splash damage with what it's doing. Like I've not had any issues with the Rogues because generally I can kind of let them do their thing for a couple of turns, and then the hostile invader comes down or a brawl comes down, or worst comes to worst, freeze with Bob. Like you can generally have a turn to like shield block into new heights, and then then you have ways to deal with that at 5. You're still running Ancient of Yore, so you have more armor gain to be able to stall a little bit longer. Tortolan Traveler having 5 butt is a lot of butt. And then you also have we talked about the Bulwark approach. You can dirty rat the King Plushes, or sometimes you can just eat it with ham, and you have several bites with ham between the actual ham himself and being able to hydration station. And you also have Chem Spill and Tortola, which just stops a lot of this stuff in its tracks. Like there's no clean answer for a Tortola from a lot of the aggressive decks right now. Like they just have to chew through it, and like a Druid can get through it eventually if they've gotten big enough early enough. And then you hydration station, they have to do it again.
Yeah, even as a Druid, that's tough. And if you're playing like Menagerie Death Knight, like
good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, they needed to die first. That's your plan as Menagerie Death Knight. If you're not a fan of that, they need to die first game plan. Don't play that deck. But if you are, it's a pretty good deck.
Yeah, I guess my one tip for playing the deck would be just like you use your taunts to space out your clears, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to be playing your taunts, let them wail into your taunts, use your life as a resource. You can take a couple of hits, and then once they overcommit to the board, then you clear, and then you build up more taunts while they're building up their board again, and then you just keep repeating that. Because if you try to clear everything, you're never going to get there. If you can space out your clears and use your taunts and your life as a resource, then you're able to generally get through it. And just like, be careful when you Fyrakk and know what you expect it to do. If there's a big board in the way, it's probably not even worth it. It's not going to clear it. But if there's a little board, you can generally do something, or at least you can use it for. I would plan to use it more for card advantage than I would for clears in this deck. I think that's going to be a more a more reasonable way to do it that expect it's going to draw you a couple cards to be able to get into an actual clear, rather than just relying on it to clear a board that's in front of you if it's too big.
It's funny. This is a control warrior that can only exist because it is able to tech well against the best from hand deck in the Hunter, and the Hunter and other stuff have pushed out things like Blood DK with Kill Jaden,
or any Kill Jaden, really.
Yeah, any Kill Jaden.
I mean, I could see taking Fyrakk out and just putting in Kill Jaden. I would hate it. I hate having to do it, but like Fyrakk isn't really doing all. I mean, it's okay sometimes, but I could see that if we needed to keep up with the Joneses and run a Kill Jaden, we could take out the Fyrakk for it. It would be fine.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
It's been very mid in this deck. I felt it's been really underwhelming.
I feel like you're just scared to use it. It's been all right for me.
No, I mean, when I have used it, it's been just whatever. It hasn't done it. Like, there's been very few scenarios where playing Fyrakk was better than any other clear that I had in my hand. And
I haven't always had a clear, and sometimes you're low on cards. So
I haven't had that experience. I've been finding that I've been able to like kind of meter out my threats and not have that be as much of an issue. So, but I mean, it depends on what you're facing, right? But I either way, I mean, my feelings on Fyrakk are well documented at this point. So
it also, I think, listener, did you like Prison of Yogg-Saron?
Yeah.
Rune of the Archmage.
But did you like Rune of the Archmage?
Yogg in a box.
Oof.
You probably know what kind of person you are in terms of this card. And you don't have to, as long as you get the mini set, you don't have to craft it. You can try it easily. See if you like it, see if you don't, right? It's not like something where you have to make a crafting decision as long as you got the mini set. So might as well try it. I put it into the Imbue Druid because I was like, well, I should play this card. And it was kind of fun. So I don't know if it's the best card in that, but it was kind of fun.
It is a nice potential face damage or thing that does something that is outside of what the Druid can generally do and can corrupt Shaladrosel.
Yeah. And it can corrupt Shaladrosel, and like Druid doesn't have clears, so yeah. Well,
I mean that's kind of the new decks we spent a bunch of time talking about. The Kibler video, even though I thought maybe we wouldn't, but
I don't know why. Like,
I should have known better.
I know that you and I have not been on 497 of these episodes, but you've been on enough of them to know how this is going to go and to not think that we're going to blow through this in 45 minutes. You know this by now.
If I hadn't mentioned the Kibler video, I think we would be at like a svelte hour.
Then I find more reasons to vamp about Control Warrior. We were not getting out of this in under 90 minutes. I hate to break that to you.
Anyway, I think that's going to do it. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out the thanks section on the website at coinandseed.com, where you also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinandseed. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinandseed.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinandseed.com, and write into our email at coinandseed@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at coinconcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinandseed.com. So, Coin Concedes.
I will coin concede to one of my very good friends who is graduating on Saturday from her teacher certification program. So she
Nice.
will be a biology teacher. And unlike me doing it in actual full classroom teaching, which I know she's already in her teacher training doing better at that part than I ever did, I think I would have loved to have her as a biology teacher. She's really passionate about it. So I am excited for her. And it's a lot of work to get your teaching certification, actually. Like, you have to be student teaching. First you're assisting, and then you are teaching. But at the same time, you're also doing this like behemoth report about your teaching. It's like 25 pages single spaced and like extremely particular about every single thing it needs to be. Plus there's an appendix, like all plus you're taking classes. Like, I've barely seen her all semester. So I'm hoping I can see her a little bit more over the summer. But I'm very proud of her for doing all of that. and I think she'll do a really good job.
Nice. Wicked?
I'm going to quickly see my friend Todd Pass, who I got to see for my once-a-year visit at PAX, she's an old friend of mine since like the first podcast 10 years ago. And we don't get to see each other that often, but we got to see each other this weekend. And that was a good time. That was my main, one of my main reasons for going on Friday, other than, usual PAX things. But I go more for the people and the experiences more than like going to, like, I'm getting too old to stand in demo lines at this point. Like, I can just play the demos on Steam eventually, but it's, the people and the experiences that I'm there for. And that was a good one.
Cool. Well, I mentioned earlier that Nuglako is in playoffs, so I'm going to go and concede to him. Wish him luck this weekend. I also want to coin concede to Tito and Pilot is now his current co-hosts over on his Bread and Butter podcast. They've actually been having a lot of guests. It's sort of become like a 2 hosts and guest kind of show. They just had Language Hacker, but they've also had Ron Mexico, Warshack, another time. I think Kira, the Dark Lady, who's a cosplayer, had on. So it's just, if you like kind of getting to know various folks who are working in the Hearthstone space, they've been having a lot of guests. And that's kind of something different from some of the other Hearthstone podcasts that just stick to the regular cast and then occasionally have guests like we do. And then last but certainly not least, I want to concede to my wife, who just got board certified. She's a hospital chaplain, rabbi at the VA. And there's this whole thing where you have to get board certified by your religious organization. And, you have a certain amount of time to do it. Once you do it, you get like a huge pay bump.
Oh, that's good. That's real good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like $15K. It's
yeah.
Crazy.
Let's go.
So very proud of her. They always give you a lot of feedback. She says it was like closer than she felt comfortable with, but she did it, and that's what counts. So yeah, we're very, very excited about that. It's the VA. It'll take a long time to process, but they give back pay. So
have you already started looking at bookcases for all the D&D books you're going to buy now?
No, I'm kind of good with just Shadow of the Weird Wizard, actually. Well, and I get to sort of coast on all the Kickstarters my brother has supported.
Okay.
So, yeah. No, and mostly I think it's going to go towards, like, Leah's education.
Yeah, okay. I guess that's the responsible thing to do, I suppose. All right, well, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and may all your plushes go face. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede.
Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.